He started playing the lyre as Rome burned. But who was he and why did he do it? Well, meet Nero. He was Rome's most cultured emperor, or so he wanted everyone to think. But when he started persecuting Christians, it became clear that something was wrong with him. So let's find out how the most evil person you've never heard of became the infamous Nero. It all began when Nero was only 16 years old. He became emperor after his adoptive father, the great Emperor Claudius, died under mysterious circumstances. Everyone assumed that Nero's mother, Agrippina, was behind it. She indeed had her sights set on being empress. But she chose poorly. She made Nero emperor, but also alienated all the powerful families in the empire. They had little respect for the young Nero and saw Agrippina as a scheming, manipulative woman. When Nero was only 12, Agrippina hired a poisoner named Locusta to kill him. But the attempt failed. The great irony is that Locusta would later poison Nero's adoptive grandfather, the Emperor Augustus, successfully. When Nero heard about this, he decided to take matters into his own hands. He waited until he was of age, had his mother tied up and stabbed to death. But he didn't stop there. In the court of Claudius, there was a group of influential freedmen. They had been slaves once, but had gained power as advisors to the emperor. They were loyal to Claudius and worried that Nero might not be up to the task of ruling. So they tried to guide him and keep an eye on him. But Nero was vindictive. He found out that one of them had criticized his performance as an actor and decided to have them put to death. Their crime: insulting the dignity of the emperor. This was just the beginning. As the years went on, Nero grew increasingly violent. He had his pregnant wife, Poppaea Sabina, kicked to death by a pregnant slave girl. Later, he took a young boy, dressed him like Poppaea, and married him. You might think that it was mental illness, but this was no illness. This was an obsession with art. Throughout history, there have been many rulers who loved art. Some collected sculptures, others painted pictures. But none were as obsessed as Nero. He said, "I am the first true artist on the Roman throne." But he wasn't just an enthusiast. He was a tyrant. He forced senators and nobles to sit through his endless performances. If anyone left early, their play would be interrupted by armed guards dragging them back inside. No one dared criticize him, not unless they wanted to end up in the dungeons. But Nero was crossing a line. People complained about him to his counselors, but they were afraid to speak up themselves. When Nero heard about their complaints, he punished them harshly, sending some to the mines and banishing others from the empire. The spoiled teenager got away with murder, or so he thought. By 64 AD, Rome was ready to burn. Maybe it was Nero or maybe not. We'll never know for sure. But here's what we do know. Rumors flew around the capital as people searched for answers. What had caused this massive fire? And the people had a scapegoat. That's when the emperor stepped in. He needed to restore order and bring back the glory of Rome. But how could he do that? Well, it's simple. Point the finger at someone else. He gathered the Senate and accused the Christians of starting the fire. And so the persecution began. Christians were tortured and killed. And yet some accounts claim that Nero played a lyre as Rome burned. He was a psychopath, the worst kind of monster. In the end, even his own grandmother, the great Julia Maesa, turned against him. But he wasn't done yet. The people of Rome called him madman and monster. But Nero didn't care. He held lavish parties, hosted gladiatorial games, and unleashed poisonous snakes into the audience. By 68, the spoiled teenager was a shadow of his former self. Senators had enough. They stripped him of his titles and declared him a public enemy. His own guards abandoned him and he fled the city. A few weeks later, he died. He was only 30. Before his death, he said, "What an artist dies in me." He had lost everything. His empire, his legacy, his mind. He had become famous throughout the world, but not for his art. He was the laughingstock of the empire. And that's why.